I didn't hear him. Did he say yes?
I said yes.
I heard it. I
I'm
heard
sorry,
it.
I'm having trouble hearing. Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to enter a guilty plea?
Sir.
Did he say no, sir?
I'm having difficulty hearing you as well, Mr. Redding.
No.
Don't speak over me, young man. Your responses are being cut off. So if you will speak up as I ask you at the beginning of the hearing, so that we can hear you and we don't have to keep straining to try to understand what you're saying, it would be helpful. The last question again, Mr. Bridges.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea today?
No.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty?
Yes.
How do you plead to the charges in indictment 21 SC 179095 to count 1, violation of street gang violation?
Can you say it again?
How do you plead to the charges in indictment number 21 SC 179195, starting with count 1, violation of street gang?
What you mean by that?
How do you plead? Guilty, not guilty?
Oh, guilty.
How do you plead to theft, count 2, theft by receiving stolen property?
Well, I have a question. I thought I was pleading not to.
Okay, you need to talk to your attorney about any questions. I can't answer any questions for you.
What is your question, Mr. Redding?
I thought I was pleading not to 4 charges.
You thought you were pleading to 4 of the 20 charges?
4 charges, yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Regis, Mr. Bridges? The court doesn't know what the negotiation was, so what are we doing?
My notes: voluntary manslaughter, gang charge, aggravated assault, and theft by taking.
There's no theft by taking charge. There are 2 theft by receiving charges.
I'm sorry, theft by receiving, Your Honor.
And none of the weapons charges?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Bridges, what's he pleading to? What was the negotiation?
Our offer was to plead to the indictment, and as far as count 12, the murder charge reduced to voluntary manslaughter, count 13, felony murder, no prost.
Sounds like you all don't have an agreement.
The sentence recommendation we gave was the 30 to serve 20.
That is correct, Your Honor. 30 to correct.
The sentence recommendation may be correct, but the counts to which it sounds like your client is pleading, unless you did not advise him that he had several counts, for example, several gang counts, and he has 2 theft counts.
May I speak, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
What I advised him of, there would be 1 gang charge to which he'd be pleading guilty. There would be 1 aggravated assault charge.
I understood what you said, Mr. Regis. 4 counts. I got it. Gang, 1 count of gang activity, aggravated assault, murder reduced to voluntary, and a theft charge. That's what you said earlier. 4 counts total, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
That's not what Mr. Bridges is saying. So do we need to scrap this and get ready for trial on Monday? I'm fine either way.
No, we don't want to.
Ms. Riggs, it sounds like you need to ask the judge to have a conversation with your client.
No, it sounds like he needs to have a conversation with you, Mr. Bridges.
No, Your Honor.
It sounds like the person who's, let me finish.
Yes, Your Honor.
It sounds like the person who's clear about it is Mr. Redding. Mr. Redding pled to the first gang count, and when you move to the theft count, he asked about the charges. Mr. Regis has indicated that his understanding is his client was pleading to 4 of the 20 charges with a reduction for murder from murder to voluntary. You're telling me that he was pleading to all 20 counts in the indictment with the same reduction in the murder count. That's not a meeting of the minds.
Your Honor, I've made the same offer to all 4 co-defendants.
I'm not disputing that, Mr. Bridges. I'm simply saying that it does not appear to the court that you and Mr. Regis are on the same page in terms of what it is that comprises the plea agreement. So it sounds to me like you all need to have a conversation. I'm not going to mediate plea negotiations. That's not my role. I don't do that. So if you all would like to go to a breakout room and speak, and then Mr. Regis, you need to speak with your client, you can do that. But I'm not going to tie up the court's time while you all figure out what you're doing.
I understand, Your Honor.
I apologize if I misunderstood, but if I could have just a minute to speak with Mr. Bridges, Your Honor.
You'll send them to a breakout room, Ms. Bell.
Thank you.
Yes, Judge.
Do you want your client in that conversation, or do you want to speak with your client separately, Mr. Regas?
I'd rather speak with him separately if that's possible.
All right. All right. So we're not back on the record. I want to take up the other matter. I'll let you know, Ms. Clay, when we're resuming. Not your client, Ms. Harrison. That's the third matter. All right. The other defendant on the platform, aside from the bond defendant, is Mr. Andrews, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Who represents you, Mr. Andrews?
Mr. Cooper.
Are you Mr. Cooper? He needs to be unmuted, Ms. Bell.
All right, Judge, can you hear me now?
I can.
Wonderful. Yes, Judge. So David Cooper on behalf of Mr. Andrews. Judge, we are quite differently situated than Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Redding. Mr. Andrews and Mr. McLemore are similarly situated in that they have maintained their positions throughout.
Counsel, I don't need a long soliloquy.
Sure.
This is a plea calendar. If your client is not tendering a plea, no pressure from the court. I'm a trial judge. The trial will start on Monday. So either he's going forward with the plea or we're going forward with trial on Monday. That's all I need to know.
Understood, Judge. And in the conversations that I've had with Mr. Andrews here recently, along with the conversation that I had with Mr. Reynolds after his plea over the weekend, I don't believe that Mr. Andrews is inclined to enter the plea as it has been offered by the state. We were hoping.
I don't, you just heard me say, Mr. Cooper, I do not get involved in negotiations. Let me finish. Sure. That's not what we're here for. Mr. Regas, do you need to go to a breakout room to speak with your client?
Please, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Bell, if you would take care of that while I'm speaking with Mr. Cooper.
Yes,
so, Mr. Cooper, as I explained to you, it does not matter to me if defendants tender pleas or if they want to go to trial. I am a trial judge and I am happy to give defendants trials. There are no trial penalties in this division. So either we're going forward with the plea or we're starting the trial on Monday. I just need to know what we're doing.
Yes, Judge. And as it currently stands, I don't believe that we are situated to take a plea today. So we understand what that means.
Very good. So, Mr. Carlos, I understand that you don't wish to tender a plea. That, of course, is your prerogative. This case remains on the court's February trial calendar and is in the next position to be tried. My next trial date is on Monday, June 5th, and I expect that you'll be brought back to court for your trial on June 5th.
Yes,
understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Cooper?
Yes, Judge. Again, we are very similarly situated to the other co-defendant, Mr. McLemore. Mr. McLemore's attorney is out of the country right now. I am texting with him. He is expecting to be present here on Monday as well, because he would be similarly situated if he were to try and enter that plea. The plea would be going up as obviously blind, but also as an Alford plea.
Not on Monday, it wouldn't. I don't take pleas by jury selection days.
Correct, Judge. Correct. Mr. McLemore, his attorney has been told that they are set for June 8th for a plea.
Counsel, I think you need to worry about your client.
Sure, and I'm just trying to.
I don't need you to help me. I've got it.
And I would like to know if we're going to trial with a co-defendant or individually.
If he is not back, and I understand he's out of the country or on leave, which is why we pushed it back, I believe, but I may have pushed it back because we will be starting the trial on Monday. Ms. Bell, is that Mr. Pines?
Yes, that's correct, Judge.
All right, is he back on Monday?
Yes, Judge.
All right, if he's back on Monday and his client does not wish to tender a plea, then your client and Mr. Pines' client will be proceeding to trial on Monday.
Okay.
June 8th date was set based on the fact that I don't consume my jury selection days taking pleas. That's why you're here today. June 8th was a date later in the week after we will have started a trial, and perhaps when I am able to take a short, really not a break, but a short period of time during the trial to take a plea. So Ms. Bell will alert Mr. Pines. If his client is not interested in tendering a plea, then both of your clients will be proceeding to trial on Monday. I think there's one final defendant. I've only taken one plea, I believe.
Correct.
Bridges. So
It
it's
would
the
be-
one that I'm dealing with now, and then we have the other two.
It would be
So
Reynolds is
I'm
already.
asking-
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
Mr. Cooper.
Hmm?
Mr. Bridges, I've taken one plea. The second defendant is the one who's up today, and then we have Mr. Cooper and Mr. Pines' clients remaining, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Cooper?
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, I'll
Judge,
see you Monday morning, 9 a.m.
I'm sorry. I would ask if the court could keep Mr. Redding and Mr. Reynolds in the county because we would expect them to both be witnesses potentially at the trial. So that they don't get sent down the road.
I also don't really get involved in that. Are they going to be defense witnesses, or do you anticipate they'll be testifying for the state?
One or the other, Judge.
All right, well, if you want them to be maintained, if you've not talked with Mr. Bridges, one of you needs to file the appropriate paperwork so that they can be kept at the Fulton County Jail. You know, we've got issues with space at the jail, and I don't know if a request has been made for them to be maintained. So, Mr. Bridges, you all can confer, and if there's a need for that to be done, if you'll notify Ms. Bell, I'm sure that she can facilitate it.
Yes, Your
Anything
Honor.
else?
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, any questions regarding next steps?
I don't believe so, Judge. Mr. Andrews?
That question was for you, Mr. Andrews.
Say it again, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions regarding next steps in your case? Do you understand what's going to happen next?
Not really, ma'am. Well, not really, Your Honor.
Your trial will start on Monday.
Yes, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any questions about that?
Can I have like a couple minutes with my attorney real quick, please?
Do you have a device that you're able to get on?
Yes, I have my phone with me, Judge. Sure. If I can step back into the,
You may.
thank you, Judge.
All right, Mr. Regas, have you had an opportunity to speak with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
I don't see that he's back. Am I missing him?
Judge, I'm letting him back in now.
Mr. Redding, have you had a sufficient opportunity to speak with Mr. Regas, your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Regas, why don't you tell me where we are?
Mr. Redding would like to go forward with the plea. The misunderstanding was 100% my fault. I misunderstood based on math Mr. Bridges and I spoke of this morning. And also, Mr. Redding would like to indicate that a few times when he would answer, somehow the technology would truncate his answer. In the beginning would be cut short, and he apologizes for that. And I've instructed him to wait a second and then speak loudly and clearly so we can go forward. But he would like to go forward, Your Honor.
All right. Is that what you want to do, Mr. Redding?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I can hear you well now. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Bridges,
Okay.
starting with the counts in the indictment and the defendant's plea.
Mr. Redding, how do you plead to violation of Street Gang Terrorist Act?
At count one,
Count one, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Guilty.
How do you plead to count two, theft by receiving stolen property?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count three, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count four, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count five, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count six, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count seven, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count eight, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count nine, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 10, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 11, violation of Street Gang Act?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 12, reduced to voluntary manslaughter?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 14, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 15, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 16, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 17, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 18, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 19, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony?
Guilty.
And how do you plead to count 20, theft by receiving stolen property?
Guilty.
Your Honor, had this matter gone to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Redding, Mr. DeCarlos Andrews, Mr. Derek McLemore, and Mr. Dontavius Reynolds are a member of the street gang 127 Mafia, They are a subset of the ABG group, which is the American Atlanta Blood Gang.
Is it American or Atlanta? I thought
Atlanta,
it was American.
American. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I apologize.
I guess that's what you told me for the last plea.
That's correct, Your Honor. I apologize.
Go ahead.
This gang is a subset of the ABG. The 127 represents the numerical alphabets, 1 being A, 2 being B, and 7 being G. These individuals are usually range from the age of 14 to 18. They hang out in the Carver, Washington homes. In addition, they engage in criminal street gangs such as stealing, robbing, and occasionally assault with rifle to maintain the status of the gang and bolster the financial situation of the gang. This incident is a series of incidents that led to the shooting of Mr. Buckner. It started on December the 26th, 2020. Mr. Dante Reynolds, Douglas Andrew, and Mikhail Redding are located in a stolen Jeep that belongs to a Janelle Russell. They are shown on posted on Instagram in the Jeep. That Jeep later is involved in an incident with Mr. Luka, Luqmon Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad was having issues with the individual on social media in which they are intended to defame the 127 Mafia group. Mr. Reddings and the other individuals took offense to this and threatened him. Shortly thereafter, on December the 27th, 2020, Mr. Reynolds meet up with the other individuals because there's an issue with the Jeep. They get the assistance of the 2 other co-defendants with a Chrysler Pacific. That Chrysler Pacific is stolen out of the cab, the owner being Andrew Robinson. Then we move forward to December the 28th, 2020, around 4 a.m. Mr. Reynolds' house is shot up. Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Mikhail Reddings are present during the investigating of the shooting of that house. That happened at 4 a.m. in the morning. That afternoon, we see the white Charger and the Jeep and meet up in a parking lot with the 4 individuals, get into a stolen Infiniti. The stolen Infiniti is owned by Mr. Pamela Hardgrove. They proceed to Mr. Muhammad's house at 1041 Martin Street in Atlanta. At that point in time, they actually shoot up the location from the parking lot and striking Mr. Buckner in the neck and in the stomach. Eventually, he succumbed to his injuries at the hospital.
And where was the location that they went to shoot him again? Was it residential or business?
It's an apartment complex, Your Honor, and the apartment they actually shot up was apartment B95.
And so I'm just trying to understand how that works.
Because
let me ask my questions if you don't mind, Mr. Bridges.
Yes, Your Honor.
First of all, what's the name of the apartment complex and where is it located?
I don't know the name of the apartment complex, Your Honor. It is located in the city of Atlanta, Your Honor, Fulton County.
I need a little bit more than the city of Atlanta. What street? Or off of what major thoroughfare?
Okay, I'd have to look that up for you, Your Honor, because I only have the address of 1041 Martin Street.
I've lost your face, Mr. Bridges. I'm looking at your chest.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm trying to look up the information you're requesting from me, Your Honor. The court does not provide the name of the apartment. Let me look
Just
it up.
give me the address.
It's 1041 Martin Street Southeast.
Is that 30311?
Yes, Your Honor.
10. Is the zip code 30311 or 10?
11, Your Honor.
So in describing it, I was just trying to determine what kind of apartment complex it was. Did they get out of the car and walk up and start shooting the apartment up, or did this occur from the parking lot?
They occurred from the parking lot, Your Honor. They pulled
So
up.
they're just shooting guns from the car in the parking lot inside of this apartment.
Your Honor, this is a, I guess, townhouse apartments units. They pull up into the parking lot on Violet Street and exit the vehicle, and they shoot the apartment complex. I guess the unit, they shoot at the unit. Mr. Buckner is laying in the bed. There are 4 other individuals in the apartment at the time when they do the shooting. Mr. Buckner is struck in the neck and the stomach.
And no one else was injured?
No, Your Honor, no one else was injured.
And do you know anything about the other 3 people who were in the apartment?
So Mr. Buckner was the girlfriend of Keisha Muhammad. Mr. Luca Muhammad is her son. His girlfriend Tia Green was there, and Nia Bailey, which is a minor child, a minor child of Miss Green, was present in the apartment complex at the time, Your Honor.
I don't know, by my math, that's 4 or 5 people.
It's 5 people total, Your Honor.
All right, 5 total. So how old was the youngest person in the apartment?
They just list her as a minor, Your Honor.
All right, anything else?
After shooting, they leave the location. They rendezvous at another location and get into the white Charger again, the stolen cars again, and they leave the location. Later, they're actually observed on video in the stolen vehicles. Mr. McLemore is eventually arrested, and one of the guns he possessed is actually one of the guns that was involved in the shooting at this of Mr. Buckner.
So does the state have evidence that all 4 were involved in the shooting?
Yes, Your Honor. This is all caught on video.
From where?
The apartment complex has video. The parking lots have video of these individuals getting in and out of these cars. And then on top of that, several of the individuals posted on Instagram their possession of the stolen cars and their involvement in this.
And there were how many cars involved too?
No, Your Honor, there is 4 cars involved total.
Well,
but we only charged 2.
I'm specifically referring to the shooting.
Yes, we involved the Jeep, which happened on the day before the shooting, which they threatened Mr.
But listen to my question, Mr. Bridges.
Yes,
I'm not asking how many cars were stolen. I'm asking how many cars were used to drive to the premises where the murder happened.
Just 1, Your Honor. That's the stolen.
Right. So all 4 were in a single car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
The joint recommendation?
Your Honor, we recommend 30 to serve 20 with the balance on probation. He can have credit for any time that he's already served. As a special condition, no guns, no weapons, no gang affiliation, get a GED, any other condition the courts may deem necessary.
I don't think you requested no guns in the last plea, as I recall. I may be wrong about that. I'll have to look at the sentence.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for the court's edification, would you establish venue?
Fulton County, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Regas?
Again, Your Honor, not again. I ask that the court accept the recommendation of the state. It's certainly a tragedy. It's sad. It's senseless. But as far as Mr. Redding, he had no history, no violent criminal history.
That's not the same thing. Did he have no history or no violent history?
I want to make certain I don't misspeak. It's my understanding he has no violent criminal history. He may have no history, period, but I know he has no violent criminal history insofar as there having been any arrest for anything violent. He is 19 years old right now.
And wasn't your client the oldest of the 4?
I do not have an answer to that question.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes, Your Honor. He was the oldest of the 4.
Go ahead, Mr. Regas.
But again, he accepts responsibility. He clearly understands the gravity of the situation, and he has a long time to sort of reflect and to become a better human being while he is in prison for however long. And again, I'm asking for the court to accept the 30 to serve 20. He wants to better his life. He wants to pursue getting a GED. He wants to have no involvement with gangs. So the things that the state, things they are recommending are things that Mr. Redding wholeheartedly embraces. And again, he just wants an opportunity to be a better person. And he even understands that this sentence, however long it may be, will help him become a better person so that when he comes out and still hopefully be a young man, he can then be a productive member of society rather than the person who committed this offense on that particular day, Your Honor. So then I ask for the court to accept the recommendation of the state.
Mr. Calhoun?
Nothing to add, Your Honor.
So are you aware, is there no prior history? Mr. Bridges, you didn't give me the defendant's history.
No, Your Honor, I wasn't aware of any history. He had, I think, a juvenile incident, but that's about it.
Right. And you don't have anything else, Mr. Calhoun?
No, Your Honor, I don't have anything for the defendant, Your Honor.
What was the juvenile offense, Mr. Bridges?
That I don't remember. Let me look it up, Your Honor.
While we're waiting, we're not on the record, Ms. Clay. Mr. Cooper, I see that you and your client are back. Shall I excuse you both? Is there anything else?
Judge, I did have a chance to speak with Mr. Andrews. I believe he might have a question or two for you from here.
We'll take it up after this plea then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the report just says that he was arrested with Mr. Andrews Macklemore for a juvenile offense. It doesn't say what they were. It says they were stopped for curfew violation. I'm sorry, Your Honor. That's what it was, curfew violation.
He was arrested with whom? Andrews and Macklemore?
Yes, Your Honor. Reynolds.
So the only one who wasn't involved was Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor. That's what it appears.
And when did that occur?
Oh, goodness. It doesn't tell me a date, Your Honor. It just gives me a case number.
Well, does it start with a year? I don't know how the juvenile court case numbers are constructed.
It says 2013 91779.
Mr. Redding, do you recall being arrested as a juvenile in the year 2013?
No, Your Honor.
I don't think he would have been young.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I've never been incarcerated with them two. Never. That's not me. I was never locked up in juvenile for a curfew violation.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the juvenile offense. So when did that occur?
Your Honor, I stand corrected.
One moment, Mr. Bridges.
I was saying, Your Honor, the situation was just saying that's not me. I was never locked up with Malcolm or Andrews in juvenile.
You said you were arrested for a curfew violation?
I said I was never arrested for a curfew violation, Your Honor.
You were never arrested for a curfew violation. All right, thank you. Mr. Bridges?
He's correct. It says they were stopped for a curfew violation.
Okay, so when were you stopped, Mr. Redding?
I was never stopped either. That's not me. Why?
You don't need to lean in, just sit back.
That was never me, Your Honor. I never got pulled over curfew violation with Malcolm or Andrews.
Were you ever stopped?
No.
Let me finish my question. Were you ever stopped, cited, or arrested for a juvenile offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
When was that?
2019, I think.
And what was the offense?
Breaking, theft by receiving, theft by taking.
And what happened with those charges?
I was sentenced to a juvenile sentence.
What was the sentence?
12 months.
Where?
RYDC, Metro.
And theft by receiving what? Was it a car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was there anyone else who was stopped with you?
You're asking, was there anybody stopped me that's on this case?
Not on this case, on the juvenile case. We're talking about the juvenile case.
Oh, yes.
Who was it?
I don't know his, I think his name's, I just know he go by Trayvon. College.
You trailed off. I didn't hear you.
I said Trayvon.
So there were only two of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
You sure? Because I'm getting ready to ask Ms. Hudson Singleton and she might have some information for me.
And It was me, Trayvon, and some person named Roger.
Some person named Roger or Roderick?
Roderick.
Who else?
I think
When you don't tell the court the truth, Mr. Redding, I have a way of getting to it, sometimes better than the other lawyers.
And Michael Cousins.
All right, so let's start from the top. You were arrested in 2019 for theft by receiving auto. You say that you were adjudicated guilty and sentenced to 12 months in RYDC.
Yes.
Initially, you told me it was just you. Now we're up to 4 people.
No, I was the only one who got sentenced to the time, John.
All right, so who else was arrested? Give me all of the names again. Roderick,
And Trayvon and Michael.
Trayvon, Michael, that's 3. Who else? Is that it?
Yes, John.
You sure?
Yes, John.
Any other juvenile arrests?
Yes, John.
How many more?
Right. I believe 3.
And were they all for theft by receiving?
Yes, John.
Theft by receiving auto?
Yes, John.
And were there other people involved with you in those offenses as well?
Yes, John.
The same 3 names you've given me, or were there other individuals involved?
Other individuals involved.
So what years did those other 3 arrests occur?
2018.
All 3 were in 2018?
Yes, John. Well,
So
two
there were-
of them, and one was in 2019.
So it was a total of 3, not 4.
Yes, John.
So 2 arrested, and were you adjudicated guilty for the 2 offenses from 2018 as well?
Yes, John.
And what was the sentence?
They just gave me juvenile probation.
How much probation?
I was committed for 2 years.
Okay, so being committed and being on probation are 2 different things.
Yeah, I was committed to the Department of Juvenile Justice.
But you didn't have to go to YDC.
No, Your Honor.
So you were on probation for the 2 offenses from 2018 for 2 years. And while you were on probation, you picked up another case in 2019. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that's when they sent you to RYDC for 12 months.
I was already in RYDC, Your Honor.
I thought you said you were sentenced to probation.
I'm saying 2019 that's where I did my 12 months, so it was where I got locked up for the other 2 occasions, Your Honor. Like all of them was the same facility.
Okay. I thought you told me for the 2 offenses from 2018, you were sentenced to probation.
Yeah, I got incarcerated for 14 days when they gave me probation.
For the 2 offenses from 18?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
And then I called the case 2019. They reinstated my probation and gave it extension.
So how much time altogether have you spent at RYDC?
I believe almost 2 years.
And the first time you went to RYDC, you were 14 or 15?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which one?
I can't really just tell you, Your Honor, because it's been so long ago.
Well, you are but 19, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
But 5 years isn't that long. It certainly wouldn't be that long to me if it was time that I spent behind bars.
I just wouldn't want to tell you no lie, Your Honor.
Well, can we agree that you were 14 or 15 years old?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Hudson-Singleton, do you have any information for the court?
No, Your Honor.
Do you
No.
know?
I'm sorry, Your
anything-
Honor.
Do you know anything at all about these prior juvenile offenses?
No, Your Honor. The only thing that I know about Mr. Redding is that he was committed to DJJ, and that was just in a passing conversation when the case first started, when DJJ contacted me to see if he was supposed to be part of the case. I don't have any detailed information about him.
All right, is there anything else on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Regas?
Again, I'd ask the court to accept the recommendation. He has been almost painfully forthcoming in terms of trying to recall his criminal offenses as a juvenile. And again, nothing has been violent, and I think that he will learn his lesson over the course of the next decade as he sits in jail or prison if the court accepts this recommendation, Your Honor.
I just have a question for you, Mr. Redding, since we've now determined, the court has determined that you were the oldest of the four involved in these crimes. I just would like to know, and I'll ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Reynolds. What were you thinking? What did you expect would happen?
I don't know, Your Honor. I just want to hear what.
No, don't, and let me just stop you. Maybe you need to think about it. I don't want to hear, I don't know, because you had to have thought about something, even if it didn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know is not an acceptable response. So I'm going to ask you my question again. You can think about it, and then I'd like to hear from you. When all of this was occurring, right? Stealing cars, beef with other gangs, even associating with a gang. Since you were the oldest, I'd like to know what you were thinking.
Your Honor, my head wasn't on my shoulder at the time, Your Honor. So I can't really just tell you what was going on. A lot of stuff going through mine.
So whose idea was it to engage in the retaliation shooting? Was that you?
Oh, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
And so was it your intention when you went to kill him?
No, Your Honor.
Did you think about the fact that there might have been other people in that home?
No, Your Honor.
So what did you intend? To just scare him?
Yes, Your Honor.
You do know bullets kill people, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So at no point when you all were discussing getting in a car and driving to someone's home and open firing in an apartment, did it occur to any of you that folks could get killed?
No, Your Honor, we wasn't thinking. We was just going off of his house getting shot up.
You think that's okay? Would you want somebody to shoot up your family's house because of something you did?
No, Your Honor.
Right. So now we're in a situation where we've got rival gangs committing retaliation acts, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's very possible that somebody's coming after your family now, right? Your family, Mr. Reynolds' family, any of the other defendants' families. Have you thought about that?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have parents who are living? A mother?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, Your Honor.
So have you thought about the possibility that because of the decision that you made to go and shoot up somebody else's house, that there might be people coming after your family now?
When I got incarcerated, that came to my mind.
Did you tell your mother so that she could take precautions?
Your Honor.
No?
Can you restate your
Did you
question?
tell your mother so that she could protect herself and her family so that she could take precautions? Have you had a conversation with your mother? Mom, I made a bad decision and shot up somebody's house and killed somebody in gang activity. And that was in retaliation for some stupid stuff. And so now you might be at risk. Somebody might be trying to kill you.
Yes, Your Honor.
You did tell her that?
Yes.
So how does that make you feel?
Made a mistake. I just, no, I was wrong. I just made a mistake, Your Honor.
How does that make you feel in terms of putting your family in harm's way?
Made me feel like I didn't, like putting them at jeopardy, like I didn't care for them.
Right. Like you don't care. I can't imagine living in a circumstance where I have children who are making decisions that can endanger my life or other members of our family. This is ridiculous. This is the part of my job that I like least of all. This is to me living and behaving like animals. People who have any regard for humanity don't engage in this kind of foolishness, recklessness. You don't know who's going to get hurt. You understand that you could be before me because you killed as many as 4 or 5 people. Do you understand that?
Sean.
I don't even know how it is that the person who was struck is the person who was alleged to have been involved in the other gang activity. I don't know how it is that his mother or brother or sister or the youngest child who was in the house didn't get shot and killed. And you don't either. That was nothing but the grace of God. So you could be facing 5 murder counts instead of just 1. Do you understand that?
Yes, Sean.
So was it worth it?
No, Your Honor.
So what are you going to do differently when you're released from custody?
And I try to do right by myself and my family.
What does that mean?
And take care of them.
Take care of them how? You won't have a job, right? You have a 7th grade education, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have a juvenile record, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I haven't heard anything from Mr. Regis about any skills that you've acquired. So is there anything that you can do? Can you drive a forklift?
Oh, Your Honor.
Do you have any skills at all?
Yes, Your Honor.
What are they?
Math.
Math?
Yeah, I'm good at math.
Okay, so how would that translate into the workforce? I mean, you don't have a high school diploma, so you can't teach anybody else. What do you expect that will do?
I was planning on going out there and getting a GED.
The point is, unless you use the time that you spend in custody wisely, you'll get out and won't have any way to make a living. At least not initially, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So how is it that you think you're going to take care of your family? I mean, that doesn't sound like a sound plan to me. If you were my child, I wouldn't be interested in you taking care of me, because what you've shown is the way you take care of your family is by putting them in harm's way. So you need to start by figuring out how to take care of yourself and how to make decisions that don't further jeopardize your family. Do you understand that?
Your Honor.
As the oldest of 4 defendants, and I think the youngest was 15 at the time that this occurred. Is that correct, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Reynolds was the youngest, as I recall.
As I understand it, Mr. Reynolds was the youngest, Your Honor.
So we range in age from 15 to, at the time, what were you, 17 when this happened?
Yes, Your Honor.
So 15 to 17 years old, you're the oldest, still a young man. And I just need you to think about the choices that you made over the course of that entire series of events and how this ended. This to me is the kind of senseless violence that causes me to impose harsh sentences, which I don't like to do, because I've learned in the work that I do that I have to distinguish people that I'm angry with from people that I'm afraid of. You, young man, are someone I'm afraid of. People I'm angry with, they need to be sentenced and held responsible, but those aren't the people that we lock up and throw away the key, right? Stealing cars makes me angry, but that doesn't jeopardize generally somebody's life. Committing a robbery and snatching someone's purse makes me angry, but it's not the kind of offense that causes me to believe that that person is a danger to society and should not be among civilized people. But driving up to an apartment complex, getting out of a car and firing a weapon blindly into a place that you know people live, I'm not angry with those people. I'm scared as hell. And those are the people, I think, who need to be put away. They don't need to be among civilized people. Because that kind of randomness and recklessness causes people to get killed. People who sometimes have nothing to do with the shenanigans you all are engaged in. That's how I think about sentencing. And it's hard for me to sentence defendant after defendant after defendant who looks, when I look at you, I see my son. I see a young man who made bad choices, fatal choices. And I know that but for the grace of God, my child could be in front of a judge. I'm thankful that he hasn't been. But it's not like I don't see you. I do see you. And you scare me. I'm afraid of you. Do you get that?
Yeah, Sean.
I don't want to run into you on the street. I don't want you to be in a neighborhood near me. I don't want you to be in a neighborhood near people that I love, or people that I go to church with, or people that I spend time in the community with. I don't want those people to encounter you because you've demonstrated that you make the kinds of decisions that cost people their lives. I don't know what it is you all were beefing about, but at the end of the day, there's no way that it could have been worth someone's life. And the sad thing about it is not just that a life was lost, which is tragic enough, but shooting into an apartment and violating someone's peace. I don't even know how those people sleep at night. How do you go to sleep or live in your home when someone is shooting into your house? You're not expecting it. You're minding your own business, and gunshots start ringing out and bullets are flying into your house and somebody dies. That family will have to live with that memory for the rest of their life. It's not enough that he's dead. He's dead and he's not coming back. But they will have to play that over and over again. That young girl probably will never feel safe because of what you did with your friends. Would you want your family to have to live that way?
No, Your Honor.
This is just too much for me. I'm telling you, maybe I've gotten older and I've done this too long, but this is just the kind of nonsense that I don't think we should have to deal with over and over and over again. People die, you're going to prison, you've got friends who are going to prison. So we're talking about losing 4 or 5 young Black men, boys who are becoming men, to the kind of senselessness that makes Black people look like we behave like animals, that we don't know how to live in a civilized society among other people, that we don't respect each other, that we don't value human life enough and respect humanity enough to not do these kinds of things. And then we wonder why people think that we behave this way. That's why I asked you what you were thinking. I'd like to understand what's in the mind of a young person that would cause you to conspire to get into a car, drive to someone's home, get out of that car, and then start firing a weapon because you're mad about some cars that were stolen or somebody disrespecting you. That's the most ridiculous thing I've heard of. It's crazy. So the bottom line is I'm afraid of you. And that should come as no surprise. You do understand that, don't you?
Yes, Sean.
Okay, I'm glad that you do. Are you before the court pleading guilty because you wish to do so?
Yes, Sean.
Have you had an opportunity to fully discuss with your attorney the facts and circumstances of your case and any possible defenses you might have been able to raise had your case proceeded to trial?
Yes, Sean.
Are you satisfied with the services?
Yes, Sean.
Do you need any additional time to speak with him?
No, Your Honor.
The prosecutor explained a number of constitutional rights that you've waived by pleading guilty. Did you understand them all?
Yes, Sean.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you've waived the right to a jury trial where the state would have been required to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, Sean.
You've also waived the right to see, hear, and cross-examine witnesses the state might have called to testify against you and to compel the production of witnesses and or evidence you might have offered in your own defense.
Yes, Sean.
You've waived the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself.
Yes, Sean.
because you're tendering this plea off of an active trial calendar, you've waived the right to withdraw the plea of guilty that you've now entered and to move this court to modify, amend, or alter the terms of your sentence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you freely and voluntarily waiving all of the rights that have been explained to you by the prosecutor, your attorney, and the court with a full understanding of the rights that you're giving up?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been offered anything to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Have you been threatened or coerced in any way to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Do you fully understand the facts and circumstances of your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is it in fact your decision to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
The court will then accept your plea as being knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered with the advice and consent of your attorney. I find that there is a factual basis for the plea, and I will sentence you as follows. As to counts 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, I sentence you to 20 years to serve in custody. As to counts 2 and 20, I sentence you to 10 years to serve in custody. As to counts 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, the court sentences you to 20 years to serve in custody. As to count 12, which is the murder, which has been reduced to voluntary manslaughter, the court sentences you to, the penalty range is 1 to 20, correct, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, Your Honor.
I sentence you to 20 years to serve in custody. I didn't hear a motion from the state, but I presume that you're moving to null pros count 13.
Yes, Your Honor.
The court will grant the state's motion to dismiss count 13. And as to count 19, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The court sentenced you to 5 years to serve. And actually, as to count 2, theft by receiving stolen property, and count 20, theft by receiving stolen property, the court sentence will be 10 years to serve 5 years in custody, with the balance of 5 years to be served on probation. I will permit counts 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 to run concurrently with count 12. Counts 2 and 20 shall run consecutively to count 12. And count 19 shall run consecutively to counts 2 and 20. That should be a global sentence of 30 years to serve 25 years in custody, the balance to be served on probation. You will be subject to all of the general conditions of probation. The special conditions are that you shall have no contact with the family of Manvel Buckner. You also shall have no contact with Janelle Reese, Tatiana Givens, Luquan Muhammad, Naima Bailey, Keisha Muhammad, or Pamela Hargrove. You further shall have no contact with your alleged co-defendants, Carlos Andrews, Derek McLemore, and Dontavius Reynolds. While on probation, you shall submit to random alcohol and drug screens and complete any recommended treatment. You shall not have any association or affiliation with any gangs or gang members. You shall complete a moral recognition and anger management course or courses. You must obtain your GED and maintain lawful employment, and you shall possess no firearms. Do you understand that, Mr. Reddick?
Yes, Your Honor.
My records show that you were arrested on January 27th of 2021, and that you've been continuously in custody since that time. You are entitled to and shall receive credit for all of the time that you've served awaiting a final disposition of the charges in this matter. And Ms. Hudson Singleton, I presume that that includes any time spent in NYDC.
Your Honor, he had no time in the RYDC on this case.
Got it. Thank you. Because he was 17, so he was booked directly into the Fulton County Jail. That's right. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else on behalf of the state?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Regas?
Your Honor, one quick thing. Mr. Redding asked if he'd be allowed to address the court about a co-defendant's lack of involvement.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I would like to let you know that the Carlos Andrews.
One moment, Mr. Redding. Mr. Regas, I've lost your video feed. Mr. Bridges, do you have his number?
No, Your Honor, but I'll email him.
Well, we can email him. I was trying to find something a little quicker. Ms. Bell, do you have a number?
Yes, I'll give him a call. Judge, I spoke to Mr. Regas. He said his battery died and he's trying to log back on another device now.
Good morning. I apologize. Apparently my battery died. I thought my laptop was plugged in, but it was not actually plugged in. It is now, though.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Redding.
And I would like to let you know that the Carlos Andrews have nothing to do with none of the situation we had going on. He was not with us. Nothing like that. He knows nothing about this situation. Now I wouldn't want to throw his life away for something he ain't got nothing to do with it.
What about the other two?
I don't know about the other two. I just know.
What do you mean you don't know about the other two? You were there.
I'm saying the Carlos Andrews was not there.
What about the other two? Were they there? And this is for the court's edification. This is not evidence that you can use against either of them at trial, Mr. Bridges.
Yes, Your Honor.
Say it again, Your Honor.
You heard what I said, Mr. Redding. Don't play with me. I'm absolutely not in the mood today.
Your Honor, the only person I know is that Taylor Runner. That was my friend. You know what I'm saying? The other rest of them was through him, so I didn't know them. But I know the Carlos Andrews and Macklemore was not there. Both of them.
Carlos Andrews and whom?
Macklemore. They was not there. We have nothing to do with this.
Anything else, Mr. Regas?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Bridges?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Calhoun, I will send you to a breakout room so that you can speak with Mr. Redding with his attorney. If there's nothing further, that will be the sentence of the court. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Bell, if you'll send them to a breakout room, please. Mr. Regas, you'll need to stay.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Cooper, if you'll step up so I can deal with your client.
Yes, Judge.
What is it that I need to know?
Mr. Andrews asked that he be given an opportunity to ask the court a couple of questions.
What is it, Mr. Andrews?
Your Honor, I didn't want to take up a lot of time in court. I had wrote a letter.
I need you to sit back so I can see you.
I had
Stop
wrote a
leaning
letter.
in.
I had wrote a letter that I want to read to you.
A letter to read to me for what?
Like just about the case, just like to talk to you how we got here today, like why I feel like he even got to this situation.
Right. I'm not interested in that right now because at this point, I don't know if you're tendering a plea or going to trial. Have you shared the letter with Mr. Cooper?
Well, I talked to somebody, yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Cooper, do you have an objection to him sharing whatever it is he wants to share? I'm not sure what the point is because I am not making a decision about the disposition of his charges. So is this something that we need to go through?
Right, Judge.
Any exercises today?
Right. I don't think that this would be the appropriate time for that. I will be out to speak with Mr. Andrews shortly here and likely Mr. Redding as well.
All right. So anything else, Mr. Andrews?
Oh, Your Honor. Just have a nice day, Your Honor.
It's a little late for that. You all are excused. I'll see you on Monday at 9 a.m.
Yes,
Thank
Your
you,
Honor.
Judge.